Hello, you eights, and welcome back to mathematics. In today's lesson, we're going to be talking about the unitary method and solving problems with this unitary method. So if you have a look at our learning intention and success criteria, today's learning intention is to apply the unitary method. So what we're going to be able to do is understand the steps of the unitary method. 2, use the unitary method to find the full amount. And then 3, use the unitary method to find a new percentage. So let's have a look at what the unitary method is. Now, what is the unitary method? So the unitary method involves finding the value of one unit and then using this to answer questions. So what we want to do in particular is, because we're dealing with, let me just finish reading this first. When dealing with percentages, this means finding the value of 1% and then multiplying to find other percentages. So what this actually means is, well, we've got questions where we've dealt with so with this particular method, what you're dealing with is when you get given, so let's say you get given that 10% of an amount is equal to some sort of value, and we want to find a different value. So let's say you want to find the total amount of the total amount, or you want to say, oh, maybe we'll find what 25% of an amount is. We use this unitary method to help us find that. And the way that we do this is we actually need to get from 10% to any other percentage. We start off by going back down to one unit, the unit that can go anywhere, which is 1. And so when we go down to 1%, that helps us to actually go out and find these other percentages. So the way that we do this, let me have a look. Let me show you what this looks like. So the unitary method has 4 steps I've written down here. So these are my 4 steps that I think of when I'm writing, using the unitary method. First of all, is to identify the percentage and the amount that it's equal to. So identify the percentage and the amount it's equal to. So in the question, you just want to read through and find those 2 pieces of information. Then the second step is then to write the percentage and let it equal to the amount. So what this actually looks like for me, for example, is, let's say you 10% amount, so I would write 10% of amount is equal to dollar some amount, or it could be kilograms or whatever you're looking at. And so just writing that down. Then what we want to do is we want to find then, if that was 10%, or if that's a certain percentage, we want to find out what 1% is. And so what we do is we divide by the percentage. So we divide by the number in the percentage. So in this case, I would divide both sides by 10, because that is the percentage here in the question, 10. And so that will tell me what 1% is equal to. So here that's equal to another dollar amount, for example. And the final step is then to multiply to find the target percentage. So multiply to find the target percentage. Often you're going to be running to find 100%, and so here when we did this was similar to the steps that we did when we were using GST, and so here often you're going to be wanting to find the 100% of the amount, so original, and so here I would times it by 100. But that's not always the case. Sometimes they might ask you to find some other obscure percentage, and you just need to adapt to that. So let's have a look at an example where we need to apply this. So using the unitary amount to find the full amount. So this first set of examples is when you're given an amount, a percentage of an amount, and you want to find the full amount. So we want to find 100%. So let's say, for example, they tell you that 10% of an amount is $50, and they want you to find the original amount or the total amount. This is what we're going to be dealing with in this first set of examples. So here, let's have a look at this example. If 8% of an amount of money is $48, what is the full amount of money? Okay, well, let's firstly go through the steps. Firstly, we want to identify what the percentage and the amount is. So in this example, it's fairly obvious and fairly clear. It's 8% and it's $48. So 8% is equal to $48. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to then follow my second step, which is I'm going to write this down and equal the 2 sides. I'm going to write here 8% of amount is equal to $48. That's the second step. I'm just going to write this down and equal the 2 sides together. Then from there, we're just going to go through the following steps. So then we're then going to divide by the percentage. So next step in this arrow here, you don't need to write this arrow. This is just for me so I know what I'm doing. We're going to divide both sides by the percentage. So here the percentage is 8%. So I'm going to divide both sides by 8. Now, if your question had a different percentage, you don't want to be dividing by 8. You want to be dividing by whatever the percentage is. And the reason why is because whenever you do 8 divided, the number divided by itself, so here 8 divided by 8 will always give you 1. It doesn't matter. The number divided by itself or itself will always give you 1. It could be 100, 1,000. Any number divided by itself is always going to give you 1. So here I'm going to divide both sides by 8 so that I can get 1%. So 1% of amount is equal to, now 48 divided by 8 is just going to be $6. Okay, so I've divided by 8 for my first step. Now because I want to find the full amount that just refers to 100%. So what I want to do is, because I now have 1, if I want to get up to 100, I just need to multiply by 100. So I'm going to multiply by 100, and so that gives me 100% on this side of amount. And that's equal to, well, I just multiply the right hand side by 100. So here that gives me $600. And so I can just say here, therefore, the full amount of money is $600. And that's how we can use this unitary method. So let's just quickly sum up the steps that we have here. For the unitary method, you firstly want to just identify your percentage and the amount that it's equal to. Then we want to divide, write this out in an equation. So here I wrote this out in an equation like this. 8% of amount is equal to $48. Then from there, we're just going to work down to get 1 unit. So I divided by 8. So I got 1%. And I worked our way back up. So here I times it by 100 to find the 100% of the amount. Okay, that's the first set of examples. The next one is when someone wants you to find another percentage. So this is the case where the final target is not 100%, but some other percentage. So let's actually have, it's the same first steps. Instead, we're going to look at it. The final step is just going to be a little bit different. So if we look at this example. If 11% of a bill was $77, what was 25% of a food bill? So here, let's just identify what was our percentage that we're dealing with. Percentage and the amount. So here, it's 11% of the bill is $77. Now, there's another percentage in this question, which is this 25%. But this is not actually what I'm looking at, because this is the target amount. This is in the question, we want to find out how much 25% was. So I'm actually going to be dealing with these two percentages, this percentage and this amount to begin with. So let's actually go through and write this down in the equation. So I know that 11% of the bill is equal to $77. So let's use this unitary method. The unitary method, the first step after I've written this down, is that it tells me I need to divide. I'm going to divide by the percentage amount. Now in the previous example, I divided by 8. In this example, I'm not going to divide by 8. Because that wouldn't be right step for me to do. Instead, I'm going to divide by this percentage, 11. So here I'm going to divide by 11. So when I divide by 11, no matter what, whenever you divide a percentage by itself, a number by itself, you just get 1. So here this is going to be 1% of a bill is equal to, well, I divide 77 by 11, that will give me 7. Okay, so that's the first step. I'm going to divide by the amount that we have here, by the percentage, not the amount. I'm going to divide by the percentage. Okay, now that I've done that, I'm going to look at my question. Well, unlike the previous one, I'm not actually going to times it by 100. If you have a look, the target amount that I want to get is 25% of the bill. I don't want 100% of the bill, I want 25%. So here, I'm going to multiply by 25. Because I've already got 1, I can just multiply that by 25, and that'll give me 25% of the bill is equal to, well, I do 7 times 25. 7 times 25, it should give me 175. And there we go. Okay, so for these questions, exact same steps in the unitary method, but the only thing that's different is in that last step, we're going to be changing that from 100% to whatever the question is asking me for. It might be, it's going to be different percentages. And so you're going to be using whatever the percentage that they give you in the question. Okay, final set of examples. Now, these are examples where you've got a percentage change that has already happened. So what happens if we want to find out an original price after a percentage change? So let's say you go to the shops and they tell you that something has been discounted. So there's a discount of 30% and they tell you the price after the discount. So it's like $15. What we want to actually do in these questions is we want to find out the original amount, original cost before the discount. So let's say it was we've got this amount. We want to find out what the original cost is. Now, the way that we actually do this is the exact same steps with the unitary method, but the only thing that we need to change is the starting percentage. So here, instead of starting in the question, what you need to actually do is find the increase or decrease percentage first. So for example, if they gave you a discount of $30, so let's work off this example, discount of $30. What we want to do is we want to find the increase or decrease percentage. This time, because it's a discount, we're going to use a decrease percentage. So the way we do this is we go 100%, and because we're discounting, we are going to subtract by our amount. So here, I'm going to subtract for oh, hang on, what's happened on my screen? There we go. Okay, 100%. If we are doing a decrease, we are going to subtract the amount. So here, I would go 100% minus 30%. And so here, for our percentage, it's going to be 70%. If they do a percentage increase, so for example, a markup, what we want to do is we want to add our percentage. So here, for example, if they gave you a markup of like 30%, we'll add that 30%. So here, what we want to do first is we want to find this increase or decrease percentage based on what the question is telling me, and then I can use my new unitary method. So let's have a go at this particular style of question. So using the unitary method to find the original price. So let's have a read of this question. A pair of shoes has been discounted by 20%. If the sale price was $120, what was the original price of the shoes? Now, if I was using my unitary method without reading this question very carefully like we did before, I would be tempted to go, okay, well, I've got 20% here and $120. So what this means is I need to go, and I'm going to write this in red just to tell you it's not the right thing. I'm going to go 20% of shoes is equal to $120. And then you would just use a unitary method like you normally would. So you divide by 20 to get 1%, and so that would be $6. And then the final amount, 100%, which would give you $600. Now, if you were to think of it, now the world is a little bit crazy place now. There are shoes out there which are going for $600, but that doesn't seem very legitimate. If I discounted if I got 20% off $600 pair of shoes, that doesn't mean I pay $120. So that means that something has gone wrong. Instead, what we need to actually do is we need to recognize that it is a discount of 20%. And so what this means is if I started off with 100%, which is the total cost of my shoes, I discount it by 20, it means I'm subtracting 20%. And so instead of paying 20%, I'm actually paying 80%. And so for these questions, if you get a discount or a markup, you need to actually do this percentage, find this percentage increase or decrease first. So here, I found out that I'm actually paying 80%. And so now that I've done that, I can now do my unitary method with that $120. So here I'm going to write 80% of shoes is equal to $120. Okay. And then I go, okay, 80%. Well, the first step that we did was we had to divide by the percentage. So in this case, I'm dividing by 80. So divide by 80. Okay, so then that gives me 1% of shoe is equal to 120 divided by 80 will give me, I think it's 1.5. Excellent. So it cost me $1.5. And then final step is because I want to find the original just means 100%, so I need times my 1 by 100 to get me 100%. So 100% of shoes is equal to, we times 1.5 by 100, that will give me $150. And that seems more reasonable. if I have a $150 pair of shoes and I discount it by 20%, it seems reasonable that I pay $120 for it. So here, therefore, the original price of shoes is $150. So that's how we answered these questions here. Okay, let's just do a quick summary of what we looked at in today's lesson. In today's lesson, we talked about the unitary method. Now, the unitary method is when we're dealing with percentages and we want to find out what an original amount was given a percentage, or we want to find out a different percentage given a percentage. And so what we did here was we went through these 4 steps. Identify the percentage and the amount that it equals to. And so we went through a few questions where we had to do this and we had to just read off the numbers. The only thing that is different about this step is if you're dealing with a discount or a markup where something has changed the original percentage. So if they change it by a percentage, what we have to do is we have to start with 100, and then if we're discounting or decreasing, we minus that percentage, or if we're increasing or marking up, we add that percentage on. And then once we've identified that percentage and the amount, then we write the percentage and let it equal to the amount. And so we wrote the equation, for example, 10% is equal to amount, 80% is equal to amount. Then from there, we divide by the percentage to get 1%. And then to get our original, from there, we just multiply to find our target percentage. Usually that is 100%, but sometimes in the question, they might tell you to find a different percentage. Okay. So that's it for today's lesson, Year 8. Hopefully that was helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to send me an email or message me on the Google Classroom, and I'm more than happy to help. But that's it. As always, I hope you're staying safe wherever you are at. And until the next lesson, I'll see you then. Bye.